Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. Today, I'm filming in the morning. I never do. Ever. But I was like, let's just go. I knew what I was doing. I found this last night. I have to wear the jacket and hat indoors. It is snowing. It snowed. It's a very light snow. It isn't even sticking on the street. But I don't care. I'm still mad about it. I'm feeling very endless, every day is a Monday, whatever, and then endless February. I can't even quote it right. But we're just going to get started. So I'm ready to get up today and just fight. So we'll see. I don't know if they're going to start out that hot. It seems like they're going to probably take a while to warm up. They seem kind of slow. I'm a little bit because y'all don't know me in the mornings. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's not even that early. It's literally 11, but for me, that's early because I'm a midnight Sarah queen always. But no, not really. I actually don't. That's not one of my favorite albums. But anyways, we're going to move on.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode with the Fab Fatties. I'm Alyssa.
I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Allie.
And we have...
And I'm Alex.
missed you all so much. We are a little giddy getting back into the studio today. And we're really excited to talk about our topic today.
Yeah.
Which is... being a good fatty. And
I'm the best. The absolute best. Because I got out. I have to do it. I have to. This is the Chapo era. I have to. And you guys know. I told you. I warned you. Pointing in judgment. We're pointing in judgment today.
Forming health.
Yeah.
I feel like it's performatory health.
I think there's a lot of performatory things that go into being a good fatty. I did, when we first started talking about this episode, though.
I think there's plenty of things that go into being a good fatty according to fat acceptance as well, but they always ignore that, don't they?
It's like, should we rename? Should we rebrand the podcast Good Fatties?
Ooh.
Or Bad Fatties?
Well,
let us know in the comments.
let's face it, we know who we're going to get named after. It's the Bad Fatties. Maybe we're the Bad Fat Baddies. What?
Honestly, that worked out.
It did.
Bad Fat Baddies. You know what? I like it.
We're double bad.
Bad.
I'm a mid-sized baddie, period.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, but what's interesting is I feel like the whole good fatty, bad fatty comes up in lots and lots of ways.
My coffee's gone. It's done.
But there was a specific inspiration point and a place where this idea really started resonating for us.
So this topic came about because we actually submitted to be part of Philly FatCon. We wanted to go as presenters and connect within the community. Unfortunately, we were not selected this year, so we were definitely disappointed, but completely understand and are happy for the folks that did get to go and have a chance to connect with the community. And I think it's important for us to say up front that as three fat women in the space, we know how hard it is to do this work.
Yeah.
So nothing but respect, admiration, appreciation for all of the folks at Philly FatCon who make that space available year after year. And also...
Do you think it's harder or easier than losing the weight to do the work? That's my question. I'm telling you guys, I think it would be great, YouTube, if I could do some kind of a debate or an argument with these people in the morning, at some point in the morning, because I'm telling you, I could totally be the evil person that lost weight. I could totally do it in the morning. It's so easy.
The folks who donate their time to...
I could get the bitch edit. I don't even care. I wouldn't even care because it's the morning. I don't even care.
It is so needed. It is a safe space for people. So what we talk about today is not a negative reflection upon Philly FatCon. We still hope to participate.
Okay, nobody was thinking that until you said that. Now I am. Now I'm like, maybe you guys are bitter that you didn't get it.
With them in the future and be there and connect within the community.
And we weren't there. We have no idea what the vibes were like there.
100%. This conversation that we wanted to have today came up because we were hoping to do a live podcast recording at FatCon, and we didn't really know what we would talk about. And we had thrown out some ideas. And
Okay, so you flopped. You had a flop era. It happens to everybody. You guys flopped. I don't know why you're like putting it all out there that you flopped. I don't get it. Like, I really don't.
Had some things on the back burner if we got selected, but after seeing the itinerary for the weekend, it really inspired this conversation. And I'm going to pass it off to Allie to talk a little bit more about what the itinerary was and how this conversation came about.
Well, thanks, Queen. Yes, I think actually you shared the screenshot first. I hadn't seen you, Rebecca. I shared the screenshot first. I hadn't seen it yet, but then I did take a look at it, and it seemed like there were two factions of FatCon. There were basically two, like when you look at the itinerary, right? There was two columns, right? There was Mold Your Mind, and there was Move Your Body. Mm-hmm. And all the Mold Your Minds were panels and speakers, guest speakers, keynote speaker, all those things. Move Your Body was...
Hold on a sec. I'm going to turn the light on. I'm bothered that this light isn't on. It's bothering me. I'll be right back. Okay, this is really gay to say, but I have Jupiter in Virgo, and I feel like in the morning I'm totally in Virgo mode these days. Very much so. That was really gay. That's all we're going to say. Let's go.
All movement focused. So yes, there was a dance fitness class. There was a yoga class. There was a body weight strength training class.
They don't like that.
Classes.
They're like, ew, exercise, that's not fat body behavior, we don't want to exercise.
It really kind of boiled down to those two categories.
Yeah, and I think that was all on the first day of the con, right? It was when they had...
Well, it's the first... I mean, there's only one full day of Philly FatCon. So, because I was there last year. And I had a great time last year. I had a great time. I made new friends. Shout out to Jesse and Ashley. I love you both so much. Megan, I already knew you, but I love you too. Mm-hmm. I made some great new friends there. I had a great time. Where was I?
The second day is yeah, so like the first day is when they had the actual panels and such. And then the second day, they still had a market and they also had another fitness thing.
Yes. Okay. So it's like, Friday is like welcome party vibes, like very casual kind of thing. Saturday is like the full day of FatCon. So that's when they had all the speakers and everything. And I guess the majority of the movement classes. And then Sunday is the plus swap. So everybody brings in their clothes, and I guess there was another speaker that day. But everybody brings in clothes that they were going to get rid of anyway, so they come in and they swap it, and it's pretty cool. And throughout the day, there's vendors all set up. I know Wider was there, and Amore 781 that we've worked with, they were there. So a lot of great companies were there and supporting, and we love that. We love to see it. I think where this conversation comes from is I feel like we all had some feelings. We all had some feelings about it being FatCon and what that means to us and how that itinerary made us felt.
I'm feeling salt. I'm feeling a lot of salt, which they're irritating me so badly right now because they won't just say things. And it's really irritating me. I just want you guys to know that. It's like, just say it. Just say it. What is the problem? What is your salt? You don't like that there's exercise? They're just bitter because they didn't get chosen, which I'm not surprised. You guys are boring right now. This is very boring. I'm just going to be real. And again, I don't know if people say that to them, but it's like, could you imagine watching this at a freaking convention? This is boring as hell.
Made us feel.
Yeah. Well, think about it. I really come from the place of like, what I know about FatCon is it's a fat liberation space.
Okay, well, you should have just started right here.
But I feel like if you didn't know...
Bit of advice, just start here. We didn't need all that other stuff and all the dancing around it. Just say, I don't like that there's exercise.
That, and you see that itinerary, I think some of you thinks it's weight loss driven, you know?
I agree.
But on the flip side, and I've said this, a safe space for us to move our bodies is also needed.
Sure. Yeah.
So this is when we got into really diving into, well, what does it mean to be a good fat? And what does it mean to be
This was not necessary. You guys could have just gotten into the topic. No one cared about any of that. Gosh, we all know why we're here. We're here for the trashy, fatty content. This is trashy. I chose this because this title is trashy. It is trash. Like, let's not act like this is some elevated thing. It's not. I'm not going to act like it on my end. I wanted to see what y'all would say. And I wanted to be a bitch about it. And that was it. That's why we're here. So, you guys just wanted to complain. You wanted to be salty. You wanted to be bitter. Just move along. Move along.
and your with your health.
Once you try a comfort hoodie, you can't.
Hold on.
You know?
Looking for outerwear that fits like it was made just for you?
I have to watch
Snow Country
this.
Outerwear has you covered, literally. With designs that prioritize plus-size comfort and style, you'll find jackets, bibs, pants, and more that don't just fit, but fit well. Say goodbye to oversized boxy cuts and hello to quality customizable pieces made to handle the
Okay,
elements.
Spawn.
Whether you're hitting the slopes or heading to brunch, Snow Country has the fit, warmth, and style you deserve. Shop now and find outerwear that truly works for your body.
Yeah, I want to say, like, I think all of us came in with different
Hashtag
expectations and
Spawn.
experiences of these kinds of cons, because I work in academia, so whenever I'm thinking of we're going to a conference, they typically are themed, and I think whenever they put out the original call, they didn't have a theme presented, and so it wasn't until they put out the itinerary that I was like, oh, the theme is like a wellness movement theme,
Yes.
right? And I think that became clear then how like what we had suggested maybe didn't fit. But I think also
Why?
on the
Because you
flip
wanted to
side-
advocate for grossly overeating and being lazy and never getting up? Is that what your panel was about? I'm so mean today. I don't care. I feel like you guys are wanting the witch to come out. I don't know. Maybe it should. I don't know. It's the morning. I can't tell. I'm not actually mad. I'm just bitchy. That's basically it. I'm not even mad. I'm just being kind of a bitch.
that what we talked about was like, okay, well, let's pretend that we had been accepted and we didn't know what the theme was, right?
You know what?
So-
We're just going to do it because it's the morning. I'll be back one sec. I'm not here to be like demure and mindful today. I'm just not.
What would we present when the alternative to coming to our talk would be movement, all right? Because it was either you go to the talks, and some of the talks had to do with movement as well, or you go do movement.
Heaven forbid. Oh my gosh, heaven forbid. Heaven forbid we missed out on this instead of exercising. Oh my gosh.
Was the options, right? And I think that's where, let's face it, movement in fat liberation spaces is loaded. Movement, when it's one of the only options, is loaded. And also, I think whenever we think
It's so loaded. No, I think you guys just kind of suck, honestly. And I don't know if they wanted to just have people be like, yeah, let's be bad fatties, fatty baddies, and just eat a bunch of food and lay down all day. I don't know if that was exactly what they were going for. You know, it's like people do that all the time. A lot of the times when they're really big. So why do you need to talk about that at a convention? It should at least be a little different from your day-to-day life, right? a little bit, at least think about something different. It's just like, I don't know. You know, I'm not one to care that much about optics, but it's like, this is so stereotypical. And I wonder if being a bad fatty is just being a complete stereotype. Is that what being a bad fatty is?
Think about, there's so few of these kind of conferences. I'd love to see more.
Yeah.
I'd love to see more, which is why I want Philly FatCon to be successful and
Yes.
keep going.
Yeah.
Is when there's so few, and this might be the only event I go to where fat people are collecting together, what does it mean to have it centered on movement? And I think for all three of us, we all have a different reaction to that. We all have a different place of like, oh, this would absolutely fit with an area for me. I think having my past, which was very much plus size
Okay,
fashion.
tell me you're toxic ritualistic without telling me you're toxic ritualistic. This is ridiculous. Look at this triggered. Look at this trigger over exercise, and all three of them are. And they're all like reinforcing it in each other. You see how toxic that is? It's not loaded. Exercise is not loaded. That's bullshit. That's in your head. That is stupid. That is stupid. Judging, the wand of judgment, judging you. That is dumb. Dumb, 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 dumb. Stupid.
Focused. I've been to events where the only way women connect is through fashion.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think it is nice that there's these
And
other
heaven
places with
forbid people connect in a different way.
other topics happening. That's what I hope to do with Charlotte Plus. It's, yeah, fashion's fun, yeah, but there's other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, when we thought, okay, let's do the reality, which is that we had no idea what the theme was, but let's pretend that we had been accepted. What feelings come up when we see this kind of agenda, and by agenda I mean literally the time agenda, right?
Yeah.
Where it is a couple different speakers. I think they maybe had 5 different panels, right? A keynote about gyms, and
Yes.
and then 5 or 6 movement classes. What came up for us? And it was the good fatty, bad fatty dynamics.
And I do think it's important that, you know, when we say,
Okay, I love how they're trying so hard to be like, we don't hate you, FatCon Philly, but we actually do hate you. Like, do you think this is going to actually ingratiate you towards them? Probably not. Which, that's fine. You can take a stand on things. Like, I'm all for it. You know? As Charlie XCX would say, I never get invited because I'm such a hater. Like, I get it. I totally get it. But it's like, don't stop pulling these punches. Like, just go. Just say what you're going to say. It sounds like a bunch of hogwash to me. It's just a bunch of, I don't want to exercise, and I don't like that exercise is being done, and da-da-da. And it's like, so what? That's you. Big whoop. Get over it. I mean, I'm sorry. We got to just be real. That is just ridiculous.
this itinerary and everything, right? I do think it's important to note that the keynote was about gym intimidation.
Yes.
Which
Okay.
both sides of the coin, right? Like I understand that there are a lot of plus size fat people who do feel scared to go to a gym. And I also think that that's maybe a little bit of a stereotype now. Maybe
It's not. I would just say, like, it's common enough that I could see it. First of all, having a convention around fatness is kind of stupid. I'm just going to be real. It's dumb. Like I've said many times, there is no correlation between fatness and belief. So it's very stupid to create a convention based around being fat. Unless if you're doing it for some fetishization purposes, or there's some kind of weird connotation like that where everybody would have that in common there, which, you know, whatever, I guess. But I could see that working because you all have that in common. Other than that, what the hell are you going to talk about? What is the universal fat experience? It doesn't exist. So, I mean, they're already going to be grasping at straws for what to even do. This is probably some kind of money grab thing Honestly, I think it's a little bit pathetic. I'm just going to be real. So, of course, you're going to talk about gym intimidation because that's something that is somewhat common in very fat people. I would say, like, at the very least, every fat person I know and myself have at least questioned it or struggled with it at one point in their lives. So I could see that being an actual topic. Like I said, you got to reach so far that you're breaking your back at a convention like this. That's probably about as good as it could get. I mean, what else are you going to talk about? Massively overeating or something? They're not going to do that. What are you going to talk about? How much you hate exercise? Like, I mean, this is stupid. What are you going to talk about? They're not going to do that. That sounds stupid. Why would you do that? I mean, really. Like I said, I think the whole thing is dumb. Maybe they want to talk about fashion or something. But again, fashion is kind of subjective. People won't necessarily like style that you put up there and all that. Like, it again, not every fat person has the same aesthetic or whatever. It's very difficult too because everybody, when you're really big like that, the fat is all in different places and it's difficult to create some kind of a universal standard of fashion or something that everybody can relate to or whatever. It's just a little bit tough. That's all. I'm sure people that have gone to fashion shows or whatever, they probably don't like the clothes. But they just say, okay, well, I like it because they're fat. And it's just like that kind of thing. But is it really that enjoyable for every single person? Probably not. You know, a lot of that stuff is really subjective. And I don't know if they expect people to get on a soapbox about like fat politics and all that, but not every fat person believes in that either. So it's like, and remember, the whole reason they're doing this is for the money. Let's be so for real. So they're going to do what they think is going to appeal to the vast majority of people. And clearly, you guys were not it. You weren't it. They were like, nope, you guys are a flop. You guys are boring as hell. You guys are basic. There's nothing really to talk about. There's nothing really new that you're offering. So we're not going to have you speak at our convention because you're just average, very fat people. Which, again, be an average person, but don't expect to get a panel. Like, you have to, like, kind of do something to get on there, you know? I feel like a lot of times people in fat acceptance, they have an absolute aversion to any ambition whatsoever. And I'm not even just talking about weight loss. I talk about, like, in general, because you are not entitled to a panel. You just aren't. Maybe they just don't like you. Maybe you guys piss them off. I don't know. It could be personal too. It's their convention. They can choose if they want you or not. You know? It is what it is. I'm not shocked. I am not shocked they didn't choose you based on this first 10 minutes. I am not surprised.
Not so much like when I was in my like heavy dieting and working out days, but I do feel like it may be a little generalized to just assume that we're all scared to go to the gym now. But I can understand, like, yeah, it's a great topic. It's a great topic, right? I think just pairing with, right, like the keynote was about the gym, half of the con was about movement. It felt very wellness focused, like you said. And it's not that I don't think that, like...
Okay, I guess they wanted BINGing on stage or something. That's what they were wanting. Sorry you guys were disappointed.
Like you said, Alyssa, like, it's not that I don't think that, you know, fat girls need a safe space to move their bodies together because, I mean, shit, I would love to do a group dance class with you guys, right? It's more so for me that, like, okay, so you were talking about other conferences, right? I've been to tons of real estate conferences. I used to go to 2 every year. And it was like, I knew that I was going to the real estate conference for real estate. There was a run club that met up like early in the morning outside of the itinerary. There was a prayer thing. There's a prayer thing every Sunday morning of every conference. And that is part of the itinerary, but like, it's not the whole thing, right? It's not like half the con is about this and half the con is about this. Like the con was about real estate. Here's some bonus things. This felt very
This is what it's about.
both. Yeah. Yeah.
I find the timing really unique for myself.
You see how stupid it is to make a convention about fatness? Because every fat person's going to expect something different, because there is no correlation between fatness and belief, fatness and interest, fatness and anything. Honestly, there isn't. The only correlations you're going to have is some kind of physical and or psychological disorder, which that's not very fun to talk about. And people are not going to want to necessarily go to a convention to hear about all that. You know, maybe there are some conventions where that can happen, but that would definitely be much more wellness focused than what they're talking about here. Just some exercise classes. Like I said, what else are you going to do? If they don't want to be sexual, then what are they going to do? They didn't want to do that. There's plenty of that type of thing if you guys wanted that. And like I said, I don't know what they're expecting. What is the universal fat experience? What's the thing that they could do that would appeal to every fat person? What are you expecting? My expectations for a FatCon are at the floor, if not underneath the floor, if not buried deep underground, because it's a stupid idea to start with.
Because for a couple weeks in therapy and in my dietitian sessions with Taryn, I was pushing a lot and like pushing recovery. And after a little while, I started to get met with, why are you pushing so much?
Okay.
And I was like,
Can you give us like what does that mean?
yeah. I was pushing myself to be further along in my recovery journey. And I was putting pressure on hitting milestones and markers and being more consistent and everything. I was feeling so burnt because all day the dialogue was like, do more. And this really started to come
It would
up
be helpful if you said what you were recovering from. I may have missed it, but I guess if I had to guess, it would be like, I'm recovering from feeling the need to lose weight or something like that, which is very 1984.
around movement, because I have the desire to want to move my body. And there are a lot of obstacles standing in my way of actually fully achieving that. And I was just berating myself over this, beating myself up. It's all I wanted to talk about. And then I started to meet with, well, why are we pushing? If it's not happening right now, why are we stuck here?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, because I'm not moving my body. Like, that's not healthy. And
You're
she's
not
like,
being a good fatty.
I'm not being a good fat person. I'm not.
That brings us to.
I'm not, quote unquote, earning my food. I'm not, quote unquote, performing that I'm trying to be smaller.
You're still very much a victim of diet culture.
What we all
Oh,
are,
100%,
right? But yeah,
100%.
so this was coming up a lot. And then Philly FatCon released it, and for me it very much landed of like, oh, I need to be performing a little bit better.
I
You
had
know?
the same feeling. And I don't know how you felt, Rebecca, but I've had the same feeling of just like, God, can we just have a big, a big group, I don't know, a conference, just a bunch of fat girls. It just feels like a party to me, right? Can we not just have a big party and not think about diet culture and not think about how everybody
Can we just
else
have people binge on stage? Can we just do a panel about bed rotting every single day? Can we just do a panel about I mean, what the hell, you guys? About how great it is to just not give a shit about our health? I mean, what are you expecting? If you want to party, then party. Then make a party. But again, I guess that would require a little bit of effort on your part, which heaven forbid.
Living in our bodies, right? It's like, well, you should be doing this, you should be doing this, you should be doing this. So let's pack half your conference with movement. And I very much, I definitely went on the defense for sure. What about you?
Yeah, I think in general, my thought when I saw that was this is a more marketable event to people who aren't fat and are afraid of fat liberation. Yeah, a bunch of fat people are together, but we're doing wellness. And that doesn't mean that that's actually on the forefront of their mind. In my pretend mind, because I'm assuming everything, in my pretend mind, they got Roz the Diva as the keynote, and they're like, let's do this wellness. Like, that is my mind what happened, okay? But my thought was, if we're going to get a bunch of fat people together, we are going to talk about a topic that other people can easily buy into of fat people discussing and doing. And it is a topic that people struggle with that are fat, as is medical discrimination, as is all these things. And I think, you know, as someone who absolutely would be going to these events for the talks and chats, I personally would have wanted more of those less classes. You know, like if I was designing my own pretend ideal thing, because what it was all the wellness was movement.
Yes.
There wasn't wellness journaling. There wasn't wellness, like other kinds of practices.
There wasn't wellness advocacy. Like, because and I don't mean to interrupt you, but as you're saying these things, like, I'm literally thinking, yeah, like, I would love for there to be a class about how to advocate for yourself at the doctor.
Yeah.
I would love to have a class about how to respectfully clap back at Thanksgiving, right? Like have these moments, right? Have these panels.
I love to have classes that are centered around E followed by the letter D reinforcement. That's what I would love. That's what I just heard. That was what I heard. Why do you need a class to teach you how to make excuses to your family at Thanksgiving? Are you fucking kidding me? They're not going to do that. I don't think that this panel or this convention is necessarily trying to encourage death. I mean, gosh, it's a pretty low bar, but I guess it was too high for you guys.
And these speakers and things like that. But why not have some interactive things where we can, you know, role play with each other and just like, you know, I know that we're also comfortable with each other. We're comfortable in our bodies. And I mean, some more so than others, and you know, we're comfortable in our
I want to role play with each other about how to get people off of our E followed by the letter D and how to continue to hide it in plain sight. That's what I want. That would have been so much fun. As if you don't already know how to do it. As if anybody with this disorder doesn't already know how to do it. Why would you even need a class on it? Clearly you got there. I mean, this is R word. This is really stupid. I'm gonna be sassy today. I told y'all. This is wild. So you want to have a class where you sit down and you teach each other how to more effectively be in the disorder. That's what you're telling me right now. When it's not like you don't already know. Why do you need to go relive it again? You already know how to do it. You're already in the disorder. So it's not enough to be in the disorder. You want to have such a reinforcement of it that you want to sit and do a role play class about it. About how to make excuses and how to deflect at Thanksgiving with family. Really? Really? Okay.
But like, that is not the same for everyone else. Like, there were people I met last year at Philly FatCon who, like, that was their first foray into fat acceptance, fat liberation.
Yeah.
And so I very much agree with you. I do think it's a miss.
Well, let me go back to my history again, okay? All of my early experiences were going through fashion, okay? Fashion events. There used to be an event called, oh shit, can't remember now. Plus size fashion week, full figured fashion week. There we go, full figured fashion week in New York. I met with other bloggers who shared their clothes. A lot of it was fashion branding. Fashion too is an easy link for people to connect, the way women have been socialized to connect, okay? What's the good side of fashion? Expression, style, creativity, okay? What's the negative side of fashion? Consumerism, spending beyond your means, revalidating ideal physical features, aka it's flattering, right? So like, and also the people who got most celebrated were the ones that most reached conventional beauty standards, okay? So there were ins and there were outs with that, okay? It wasn't until I went to events like Fat Camp, where it truly is about just connecting as people and talking about our concerns, that I was like, oh, this is what it means to actually connect to fat women. All right, this is what it actually means to connect to fat women.
Okay.
And so when I saw that, I thought, okay.
Fat women you agree with. You need to add that one there.
I see what they're doing. It's going to serve somebody. It wouldn't have served me. I would go to some panels, okay? But I don't want to connect with other fat women through movement. And that is a personal thing. That does not mean that no one else would want to do that. I just want to connect to fat women through conversation, honesty, hearing about our life
This is a really good case study of how many hoops people within this disorder will go to excuse not exercising or not working to exercise or trying not to. Look at how many things they've said. How much of this has actually made sense to you? It's just a constant goalpost shift, a constant thing. They're all reinforcing it in each other. This is exactly what I've talked about in terms of reinforcement. You reinforce the disorder in other people. That one woman, she wants a literal class on E followed by the letter D reinforcement. That's what she wants. I'm telling you guys, it's like a cult. The disorder it has that quality. And you bet if any one of these girls left, if one of them was like, I'm not going to take part in these behaviors anymore, I'm not going to take part in this logic, I'm not going to take part in this disorder anymore, the other two would hate her. Because you'd be breaking the sacrosanct. You'd be breaking that pact. That's a huge part of the obesity issue that I don't see talked about that much. But she would lose her friends. She would lose these friends. Because she's betraying the faith. She would be betraying the duty of the disorder. And that's how people think about it when they're in it. It's a duty. It's something I must do. I have to do it. Even if it's not fun, even if I'm facing consequences that are negative, even if I'm not doing well. We see this a lot in fat acceptance where they will literally hide their health issues. They will hide it. What is something I have never done on this channel? I have never hid my health issues. I've talked about them all the time. I think a lot of people probably were pissed at how much I talked about it sometimes, because I have talked about how negatively I feel in the weight loss. I've talked about the side effects of weight loss. I've talked about just being fat and the side effects within that. I've talked about my hypothyroidism. I've talked about everything because I don't feel a need to hide, because I'm not in this weird logic. I'm not in that. I don't have to hide how I feel. I don't have to do any of that, and I don't. Like I said, not dealing with the reinforcement aspects of the disorder. It goes for any kind of it, any bit of it. You should be able to be real. You should be able to say how you actually feel when you're discussing these issues. And if you feel like you can't, that is giving cult. Because why? Why? Because you better not stop. You better not. It's that kind of thing. Because you have to, it's so obviously fake. The disorder and the logic behind it is so obviously fake that it requires constant reinforcement, especially from other people. Because if you want to believe in a delusion, you have to find other people that are just as delusional as you. Because you're constantly hitting reality in this disorder. So you have to constantly fight reality. And what is the reality that they're fighting in this moment? They are fighting the fact that people are not going to want a panel about BINGing on stage or bed rotting for weeks. People are not going to want that. It's boring. It's not fun. There's no need for it. They're going to want like an exercise class, or they're going to want something like that. The vast majority of fat people are probably going to want something like that. Because for a lot of fat people, which like I said, you're already reaching for something in common, a lot of them, the only thing they have in common is they may not feel comfortable with moving their body. So they're trying to go somewhere where they can figure that out, which that would be an actual positive thing. Because a lot of times when you are super morbidly obese, you have a very severe disconnect from your body. It's a massive gap between the mind and body connection. And the only way to fix that is through movement, is getting kinetic, feeling your body move and doing these types of things. It helps you reconnect. But again, they would never want that because the disorder doesn't allow it. Because if the disorder does allow it, then you start to really feel how awful you actually feel. And what is the point? Why can't you feel how awful you actually feel? Because then you have to stop. And what is the number one goal of somebody that is deep in the disorder? They do not want it to stop. So you will do everything in your power to sustain your behaviors because you do not want it to stop. That is the goal. That is the subconscious driver behind all of these disorders, is you don't want it to end. So you're always fighting for it to continue. And that's basically why. So how do you do it? If something is so delusional, like I can just eat and eat and eat and bed rot all day and be okay and I'm going to feel happy, this will make me happy. That's a delusion. This will keep me from having a nervous breakdown. That's a delusion. You have to create a huge mind-body disconnect to sustain that level of delusion. So a lot of fat people will struggle with exercise because of that. Because when you move and stuff, you have to face how big you are. It's a bit of a struggle. It's a reality check. And that's the one thing they don't want. You don't want a reality check. And why don't you want a reality check? Because then you have to stop. And you don't want to.
Etc. I can't do that when I'm Zumbaing and focusing on my breath. And that is absolutely a personal preference. But I no longer want to make connections through some of these what I call easy connectors from women. Sure. Fashion, gym/diet talk, etc. I want to kind of cut those connection points and connect alternatively. So that's just how I responded to it. I felt like I don't know if I fit here, and that's okay.
Why? Why do you want to make different connections?
Yeah, I think in general, what I've found is when I do stuff, like when I go someplace and I don't know people there. And
Why? Because she doesn't want it to stop. We already answered that question, but let's hear her. Let's hear the roundabout. I'm interested. Let's hear what you're gonna say.
One of the few big people in the room. Women come up to me and say things like, don't you just wish you could go back to that time when we could eat a cupcake and it didn't do XYZ, right? Or I come back,
the mac and cheese that you're eating.
Or I'm hiking, and granted, same girl, I'm hiking and a girl comes up and she's like, oh, I just need to catch a breath. And I'm like, and there is a solidarity there. Solidarity, okay? Going up that hill's hard, okay?
Or you're at a medical facility and people feel comfortable talking about their weight with you just because you are comfortable in your body.
Yes, yeah. I get a lot of trauma dumping. I get a lot of
Yes.
I get a lot of let's connect through diet talk.
Gosh, that has to be a whole episode in itself.
Yeah.
Because this has come up a lot for me lately.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I do think people
Yes,
see
it's
me
called toxic ritualistic reinforcement, and it does happen very often to people. And that's probably around the board, like across the board. But it's bad. I'm going to keep pointing out how bad it is because that's what a lot of that is. So it's like that person walks up to you and they want to have a conversation about how awful they feel in their body because it reinforces it in themselves and you. Because is it really a productive conversation? Probably not. But again, you can have this disorder at any size. There are all different types. Disordered at any size is a thing. So I'm just saying, and on a subconscious level, people can probably tell that you have something like that going on. So they try to connect with you through that. It becomes a connection point with people, which is really toxic and horrible. It really is. And that is something I will say about getting to the mids is that I feel like that kind of quote unquote easy connection point is gone. That false sense of community around that issue is gone. When you're in the mids, you're an individual again. And I think that can be difficult for a lot of people. I think it would be really hard because as much as she's complaining about this right now, if that were to actually stop, it would probably really bother her, in my opinion. Because she would feel very alienated. Because she's used to that easy connecting point, which is not a healthy connecting point. And I do want to talk about this more this year, where people use these disorders as a personality. They use these disorders to create drama in their life so that they're not bored. And they use these disorders to connect with others. And I feel like this podcast is a good example of all three of those. Because if this wasn't an issue for them, what would they even talk about? What would the podcast even be? What would their friendships be built upon? What would their personalities be built upon? Those are difficult questions. Gosh, I have to actually form connections with people. Gosh, I have to actually form a personality. Gosh, I have to actually come up with a topic to talk about. Those are harder questions. And for a lot of people, they can be soul-destroying questions, and they can be questions that keep you in the disorder. Because, again, you feel a duty to it. I'm not going to lie and be like, oh, it's so fun. It isn't fun. For those of you guys who have not been in the disorder, they're not fun. I don't think any of them are fun. They're a duty. That's why I don't like the addiction comparison, because an addiction is in some way pleasurable, usually. These are not. When you are binging, the first few bites are good, and then it starts to get gross. It can get painful. It's like, it can get really bad. It's not very pleasurable. The after effects are awful. The digestive issues that come in. It's a lot. The IBS and all that, it took literally, and my digestive system is still very sensitive, but it took me years to like have a normal number 2 in recovery. But that's fun. It's not. You really mess yourself up with these types of behaviors. So like I said, it's a duty. It's not, I'm not going to tell you guys it's pleasurable. It isn't. It really isn't. So.
Big body and think I'll know. And the thing is, I do know. But I want to have a relationship that is mutually engaging, where I'm not having to teach or nurture for what purpose, right? Just to be the fat person who's there to make you feel less
Okay,
fat.
well, I would suggest getting out of the disorder then. That would be a way to get there. Because if your whole personality is that you're fat, then that's all you're going to get. Okay? It's a little bit of advice for you.
About you also being potentially a little bit fat.
Hey everyone, did you know that the Fab Fatties are on Patreon?
Okay, I'm going to skip ahead. I don't want to deal with an ad right now.
And we had there was a great nurse. There was a great
You know what?
I think she was security.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, let's end it there. We're going to end it there for today. That shoehorned ad, I'm going to remember that that's where we were. Oh my goodness, you guys. Remember, this channel is not a safe space, and especially not in the morning. Like I told you, if I was ever on Jubilee, I'm pretty sure they film in the morning. It would be something else. I can tell you that much. I would get massively bitch edited. I wouldn't even care. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will talk to you guys next week. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.